Yeah.
Wonderful. Lyndall, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I am going to ask you to introduce yourself first of all, because I keep forgetting to ask my guests to do that. So tell me about yourself.
Well, my pleasure to talk to you today. It's really great to be hearing about what you're doing. And so my name is Lyndall Farley, and I started a company called Beyond a Break a couple of years ago now. And I am extremely, extremely niche. So I help organizations set up and amplify their sabbatical programs. And I coach individuals when they're on a sabbatical journey to really make the most of that as a life-changing experience. So that is all about people going beyond just taking a break and really using a sabbatical for life transformation.
Yeah, that's amazing and very niche. So tell me a bit more about the journey, how you got there.
Yeah, well, I've actually taken 11 sabbaticals myself now. So it's kind of a crazy, crazy number. But the truth is that I didn't really even know what I was doing or I didn't even have the word sabbatical to describe what I was doing until about sabbatical number 7. But I found in my career and my work life that I kept on, really being very goal orientated and sort of pushing forward and working hard, and then needing to, achieving a goal and then sort of being, either tired or just a bit disenchanted and just thinking of what next. And I always needed to sort of step back and get away from sort of the everyday life and take these kind of periods of time away from work to reflect and figure out what it was that I wanted to do next. And so by the time I got to a sabbatical number 7, I realized, what I'm doing is taking a sabbatical. But it took me a while to figure out what that was. And then now I actually have just kind of designed that into my life. And I use sabbaticals really for that, deep recharge and to really work out what's been working well. And then, what do I want to sort of push forward with next? But yeah, I think it all for me culminated in sabbatical number 8 because I was I've been working at KPMG, Big Four accounting firm. I was a manager or a director in organizational change management. So doing big org change projects globally. And I'd been doing that for 10 years, with various different specialties. And I was just, I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. I just wasn't loving it. And I was also getting really tired of the kind of, the consulting life. I was doing a lot of travel, working hard, the conference calls at every hour of the morning, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes, to support, various different countries, wherever. And just was no longer feeling the passion and the joy, and it was just all became a drag basically. So I did my thing. I took a sabbatical, and KPMG was great. They actually gave me a sabbatical to go and figure all this out. And then I basically was traveling around South America for 6 months. And I really feel like I felt I was being called to go out on my own and start my own business and do my own thing. And I was resisting that for the longest time. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Because along the way I'd also trained as a coach, but I was just like, I can't possibly do this on my own. This is crazy. And so I went back to KPMG and I kept on working whilst I sort of started dabbling and figuring out, okay, well, what would this look like? What would this feel like? Then it was sabbatical number 9, where I was in Bali, and I know I number my sabbaticals, where I was in Bali in this like startup entrepreneurs hub kind of co-living community, just beautiful, amazing place full of very special, awesome people. And I think that's really where I got the courage, because I was surrounded by all these entrepreneurial people, and they were like, yeah, you could totally do this. And also that's where this kind of sabbatical idea came from, you know, because in the coaching dabbling that I'd already been doing, it was people coming to me saying, hey, you've been doing a lot of sabbaticals. How are you managing to do that? And like, can you help me? And, you know, and so I knew that there was a need there. And then it was actually, you know, a really good friend who said, yeah, well, why don't you like combine sabbaticals and coaching? And I was like, is that a thing? And then she was like, you could make it a thing. And then I was like, okay. So yeah, Beyond a Break was born in Bali.
Awesome. I love that. It's all about job crafting, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
find what your skills are and bring them all together and create that role if it's a need, if it's there.
Exactly.
That's amazing. But you're right. I mean, 9 sabbaticals. I mean, actually, you said, how many have you taken? 11, did you say?
11 now, yeah. But I launched Beyond a Break at Sabbatical 9, yeah.
So for a lot of people, okay, a sabbatical might be something that their business offers or they can ask about. But have you ever taken a sabbatical when you haven't had that support from an organization?
Yeah, so I've taken all sorts of different sabbaticals. So I think I'd have to count them up, but basically there's kind of sabbaticals where you actually leave a job and you've got a period of time before you start another job. And they've been really great because they kind of, you can sort of negotiate this period of time where you have the security knowing that you're going to a new job, but you've left the other job, right? So I've done a few of those. I also did, you know, like what people would call in Australia a gap year, but that was, you know, when I was much younger. And then I've also done sabbaticals where I was, you know, from KPMG or another business, taking an actual break away from a role and then coming back to a role, right? And so there's a variety, and that's just a variety of ways I've done it, right? So there's heaps of ways that people can make a sabbatical happen, and it's just looking for those opportunities. So if your company doesn't have a sabbatical program or the provision for unpaid leave or any kind of leave like that, you can negotiate it sort of even between promotions. Like if you were to move role within a company, and that's certainly one of the things that I did too, or moving or negotiating a period between an overseas move, you know. And so overseas moves between promotions, moves between companies, or just negotiating a period of unpaid leave. You know, there's just a variety of ways that people can kind of make it happen. Yeah.
So you coach people on how to plan, prepare for their sabbaticals, but also how to use their sabbatical, like what's the objective of it? So can you
exactly
talk me through that a bit?
I mean, a lot of the time people come to me when they're struggling to kind of you know, pull the sabbatical together, and so then I will help them, you know, with the actual sabbatical plan, but also how to pitch it to their boss and how to make sure that they are putting a positive kind of win-win spin on everything, to make sure that they've got it's reflecting positively on their career, but also designing the sabbatical so that it's the right sort of plan for them, right? So if somebody is kind of nearing physical and mental burnout, and then I hear that their sabbatical plan is to go and climb Everest, it's like, okay, red flag, you know, actually what you need is a period of recharging and restoring and getting back to yourself and getting your energy and your well-being back. And climbing Everest is just going to kind of exhaust you, right? So it's making sure that the design is right for the person's need. But so there's that piece, but invariably the actual work happens when they're on sabbatical, because they get the recharge they need, and then they're doing the life that they love, and they realize, actually, I don't want to return to the life that I had before. I want to redesign this life. And so we go through a life design process effectively, and reimagine life. And then, post sabbatical, that's when the real change actually occurs. Sabbatical is actually only a catalyst for change. Nothing actually changes in your life on sabbatical. It's just like a break away from it to get perspective. But then you have to actually make the real change when you return. And so it's that, what's that transition plan look like? How can you stay happy and healthy on that journey, going from old life to new life? So
it's amazing what taking some time out can do to give you that reflection time. And I've done that myself, taken a couple of weeks out just to sit and think about it all, and think, where am I going with all of this? What do I want? Because you just need that headspace sometimes, don't you? So
and it's funny because actually we get that perspective and we get that kind of mental shift when we're able to take ourselves out of the busyness of the life routine, because it's like, it's amazing how much the take out the rubbish, feed the dog, buy the present for the grandma, all of that stuff just clutters your head, but when you're away from all of that, you've got a lot more space to be able to think these things through. But quite often I find as well, people are then away from any of the toxic influences in their life, right? They're getting a break from the job that's actually trundling them towards burnout, or a time away from somebody in their life who is perhaps not being a negative influence, right? And so it allows you to sort of get away from the busyness, but also any toxicity as well. And that's when you can really return to yourself and go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's who I am, when I take all of these labels and these pressures off and just get back to the core of me. Oh, this is who I am. Oh, that's right. This is what I want in my life, and so it's possible to do that if you just stay in your normal life, but it requires a lot of discipline and intentionality. And I think it's a lot easier for someone to step out of that to get the perspective. Yeah.
So you said that on your sabbatical number 9, your Beyond a Break business was born. So that sabbatical number 9 gave you that headspace to start thinking, I can do this.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about your thought process there, because you obviously went from, there's no way I can do this on my own, to starting a business. So how did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the time. Have you ever seen that diagram where it's like A, and that's where your starting point, and B is like where you are now, and it looks like to everybody else that it was just, you just went from A to B, right? But actually it was like A, B, right? But that's what it has been like too, right? And so, I mean, it's been a mess of a journey, right? It's the ups and the downs and the rounds and the rounds, and it's like, oh, let's try this. Nope, that doesn't work. Let's try this. Oh, that really does work. Okay, great. And so it's like what actually got me there was, I think, having the security to know that, so first of all, I didn't just start Beyond a Break and stop working. Like, I actually don't ever condone that anybody does that. You need a transition plan, right? Particularly when you're starting a new business, and you need to know that you've got some stability of kind of income while you're starting something up, right? And even if you have savings to do it, keep the savings, and have some sort of transition.
They burn through quite quickly, don't they?
You don't burn through all your savings to start a business. Like, just work out what that transition plan is. So what that transition plan for me was I I left KPMG and I started freelance change management consulting. But I would only ever take on projects that were 3 days a week, or project-based ones. And so that gave me half of my week to be able to start building up Beyond a Break.
Yeah.
And so basically, if you were to kind of map my kind of or graph my time spent on, change management freelancing versus time spent on Beyond a Break, at the start, it was very much, a lot of change management freelancing. And then as the revenue from Beyond a Break ramped up, that freelancing could sort of go down to the point now where I'm 100% Beyond a Break. And so that's also a decision that I've made, because in the change management freelancing, fortunately / unfortunately, I can earn so much with that kind of work, because I have the skills and experience and KPMG and blah, blah, blah. That it's hard to get Beyond a Break to kind of earn that much money, right? And so it's like the opportunity cost of like knowing that, well, I could just go out and get a freelance contracting job, but no, I want to spend the time to build up this business. And so but I didn't make that jump until Beyond a Break was at least, earning a certain amount of money, because, at a certain point you got to pay the rent, right? So it's like, what's the transition plan? Don't just jump, with your eyes closed. It's like, make sure you've got a sensible transition plan.
It's so true. I mean, I've been dipping in and out of freelance work as well over the last year, just, to keep boosting the bank account, whilst you get to spend some time. Like you, I'm squiggling around thinking, what am I doing? I'm working this all out. Every conversation I have with people, I get clearer or less clear, and I change my mind. And so, it is a transition journey, definitely, whilst you work it all out and sort of work out where your focus is and where your clients are. So what were your biggest challenges that you have overcome to get Beyond a Break as your sort of 100% time now?
So I think the challenge, I think there's so many. Which one do you want me to talk about? I mean, so I had a baby in all of this as well, decided to have a baby. And so I took a period of maternity leave, and then we took sabbatical number 11 was a family sabbatical, where we took our baby around the world to actually meet her family, because COVID, nobody had even met her. And so, that was a big gap. And so now I'm building the business back up again. And that's a hell of a lot easier from starting from scratch, because it's all there, you just have to kind of get it going again. But, so that's a challenge, navigating maternity leave or sabbaticals, or, those kind of breaks away from your business. But in the very beginning, I think it was figuring out where I could really add value, and figuring out, what is it that is the pain that people want to invest in taking away. Like, how can I help people to take away the pains and the fears and the frustrations of a sabbatical, and help them make the most of that kind of experience, so that they want to invest in themselves and hire a coach, right? I think the other thing along the way was working out. So the pathway was, I would support the individuals first, and then once I had supported enough individuals, you get to know, oh, these are all the pain points, right? And these are all of the things, the common stories, the common kind of journey, the common challenges, right, that everybody is facing. So you can design coaching programs around that. But at the essence of that, the biggest pain is in someone taking a sabbatical is, how do they get the time away from work, right? And so that's when I wanted to solve that at the company level, right? Because I was like, well, I can keep on supporting individuals, and that is like a one-to-one impact, and you do have deep impact in that person's life. But at the end of the day, there's only so many one-to-one clients you can take on, right? And so actually, I want to solve it at the company level so that hundreds and thousands of people can actually take sabbaticals, right? And actually scale the support that I provide so that it's almost like self-service for exactly what they need in the moment. And so, so that's where the support for companies has been launched as well. So launching, basically helping HR teams to either set up a sabbatical program or to take an existing sabbatical policy, but then actually amplify it and use it as a well-being benefit. Because a lot of the time companies have sabbatical policies, but they bury them and hide them. Nobody knows about it and nobody takes them, and nobody feels safe to take a break. And so that's a cultural issue that needs to be dealt with at the organization level. So there's lots of work to be done in companies.
Yeah. So how did you start to break into that different space if you were working with individuals? I mean, finding clients or creating clients is, is a nice way of putting it. It's challenging, isn't it? It's a lot of work when you're working as a solo entrepreneur. Like you say, finding all of those individuals to work with, it takes time, it takes energy, and you have, a lot of people that don't become your clients. But it's very different to approaching organizations as well. So, I mean, what have you found is a good way for you to find or create your clients?
Yeah, so I think you have to sort of come back. Well, I come back to my kind of business values at the end of the day. I wanted to start doing this because I wanted to deliver value to people. Like I wanted to actually improve people's sabbaticals and ultimately improve their life, right? And so I have business values of generosity and creating value. And so if I kind of put those values on and then I go out and start talking to HR leads and people's, I go towards an HR, let's say, well-being lead or whatever it might be in an organization, and I just actually want to help them make their sabbatical program better, right? And I can do that in just one call, right? I can help them, just by giving them some targeted strategic advice about what they're doing, what their challenges are, and how to make sabbaticals, or how to take sabbaticals from where they are now and make them sort of even better. And I'll do that for free, right? And that's absolute, like, I'm happy to do that because I have this business value of just wanting to be generously giving value, right? And so then it's like, great. So I've already helped these organizations. If they then come back and say, actually, we want to do more with this, can you help me? Then, then we start to charge, right? But it feels better to me to not be trying to go out and sell, but to be going out and just delivering value, regardless of what the outcome is. And so that's the way that I try and go out to the world, if that makes sense. Because it takes the pressure off me too.
Yeah, I hear mixed advice about giving things away for free, or making sure you charge for everything. It's your time. And I remember having this conversation with you actually last year when we first
say
spoke.
something different?
No, you said the same thing. You said the same thing because you were coaching me on, I was obviously putting together my plan, sort of who I was and what my offerings were as a workplace wellbeing consultant. And thinking about what do I charge for, how much do I charge, and thinking about that. You said exactly that. It's about how can you immediately add some value to these people, and then they see that value, and then hopefully will then come back to you. But
well, I think it just comes back to, like, do you have a business that is primarily there to make you money? Or do you have a business that you created because you primarily believe that it's the right thing that the world needs, right? And that's what my business was created from. You know, it was the frustration that all of these people were trying to take sabbaticals and were being blocked by their company, or, you know, were feeling lost in the journey themselves, you know. And it's like, okay, I have the organizational change management experience. I have the experience of the sabbaticals. Let's go out and, you know, make some changes in the world and fundamentally change the relationship between work and living, you know. And so whenever I get stuck in the, I got to make money, because I get stuck in that loop as well. It's like I constantly think,
how could you not be stuck in that loop? It's
yeah,
why we do this, really, isn't it? We want to make change, but
exactly. But it's like I would rather build my business slower and in the right way, rather than sort of go after the quick money, because the going after the quick money is just the hamster wheel. And then as soon as the quick money is gone, you just have to keep going on the hamster wheel again, right? And it's just like chasing the shiny thing. It doesn't feel good, right? Never.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've chased the shiny money, and it's like, then you get the shiny money and you're like, oh, this isn't great. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's really about building something that you actually believe in. Yeah.
I'm really taking on board what you're saying here, Lyndall, because so many people that I talk to when they're in that sort of career change mindset, they want it, but they don't know what they're doing. But a lot of it's being driven by the need for doing something more meaningful or more purposeful, something that's aligning with their values. Often they're misaligned now with what they're doing. So it's about finding out what your values are now. And how do you align them with what you want to do? And actually what you've made me start thinking about is, I know what my values are, but putting myself out there as a business, I haven't actually given my business its values. And that's actually really important. So what you were just saying then about your values for Beyond a Break, you've given them 2 values that you live by when you're talking to your clients, or and working with your clients. And I think that's it's a different way of thinking about it that I hadn't sort of put together, because obviously when you go work for an organization, you're looking at what their values are and do I align with them. So I need to make sure that I'm creating values for my organization that I then align with, and doing the right thing with my business.
And it's interesting because I have values as a person, like me, Lyndall Farley, but my business is not me, even though I am, you know, the one person doing this, right? It's easy to start losing yourself in that. But for me, it's always been important to separate. Lyndall Farley is over here, and she's with these values, and Beyond a Break is over here, and it has these values, right? And they align, obviously, they speak to each other. But you know, the business value of generosity is that's the way I want to come into the world, you know, or the way I want to be seen in the world, or sorry, the way I want Beyond a Break to be seen in the world. And I'm the voice spokesperson for that, right? And so it's, whereas you know, if I think about Lyndall Farley, just the person, generosity is like, yeah, it's important to me, but it's not one of my core values, right? I've got other things like freedom and adventure and those kinds of things which speak to me, right? And so it's interesting how to separate those 2 things can actually be quite powerful.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard a few people say is, and it's a really good thing, I think, to keep reminding yourself when you're going out and starting your own business, is you are not your business. In fact, I think it was my business coach when I left PwC that kept reminding me of this. You know, so when you're having a go at this business and things aren't working, but you're learning from it, you're creating a business and it's evolving. You know, we've both said about our sort of squiggly
Yes, quickly journey.
way forward. But you're not your business. So if things aren't working, you're not failing. You're just having a go at stuff.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, you say, okay, that's not working. Let's try something different. So having that separation between what you're doing here and who you are is, I think, really valuable.
I think there is a lot to explore as well with your relationship with the word failure and the word success, right? Because when you're building a business, like, what is failure? Like, is it possible to fail actually?
Or do you just keep learning and keep
Or
changing?
do you just figure out what doesn't work and make new decisions? Like, and then the same thing goes for success. Like, I'm terrible at setting a goalpost, and then when I'm nearing achieving the goalpost, moving the goalpost. Like, I'm like, oh no, that's not good enough now. I want to move the goalpost. And so I never achieve success, right? If I'm always moving my own goalposts. So it's like, what is success even, And I think in this world of social media as well, I mean, there's so much that's just like wound up on social media about wanting to look successful. It's like, yeah, but what is success even? I mean, at the end of the day, I started Beyond a Break because I wanted to deliver value to the world, do something that I believed in, but also I wanted to live the kind of life that I wanted to live. And I don't think I actually mentioned it, but on one of my sabbaticals, I think it must have been, was it in South America or was it in Bali or somewhere in between? I went through a process of designing my life. Like, what do I actually want to, or how do I actually want to live my life, And because I mentioned my values of freedom and independence, these things kept on coming up. And I basically discovered that if I wanted to live the life that I wanted to live, it was going to be very difficult for me to do that in the context of employment, because the traditional employment job relationship just doesn't give me the kind of flexibility that I want to have in my life, because the life I designed was that I wanted to live what I call the 9-3 life. And the 9-3 life is where you have a home base for 9 months of the year. And then 3 months of the year, you have the freedom to be able to live and work wherever you want in the world. And that's because I'm an expat. I've got family all around the world. I love to explore, all those kinds of things. And you find me a job that is going to be okay with you doing a 9-3 life, basically. And it's like now post-COVID, there's actually probably a little bit more flexibility, but it's still quite difficult. And so at the pre-COVID world, that was like really the only way to get that lifestyle was to work for yourself and create your own business according to your own kind of design principles. So yeah, another one of my design principles for the business is that it's location independent. Like, I never wanted to be grounded to a location. All I need to run my business is an internet connection. And every time I've been pulled back into like maybe kind of setting up, face-to-face kind of interactions with a business, I've sort of pulled out and went, no, we're doing this virtual. Again, COVID massively helped towards that. I mean, don't forget, I started that all pre-COVID, right? Post-COVID, this all seems normal, but pre-COVID, that was very kind of weird. So
yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing what the pandemic actually did do for businesses and ways of working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We could go off on a whole other long conversation about that, but we're getting a bit short on time. So let's round this up now. And so what I would like to ask my guests is to share, I guess, a sort of a parting thought or a tip to those people, those women out there who are thinking about change but feeling a bit stuck or unsure,
Yeah.
what would you say to those people?
I think my starting point for people who are feeling a little bit stuck, particularly in their job, is to actually stop thinking about your job for a second, right? And actually step back and design your life first. Like, what kind of life do you want to live? Who's it with? Where is it? What do you want to be doing? What kind of activities give you energy? What kind of sets your soul on fire? What is the life, the ideal life that you want to actually have, right? And then, as a part of that, a part of the whole picture of life, what work fits into that, right? So that your work is there to support and drive the whole of your life, rather than design a career and then fit life around what can fit with that kind of job, right? And so, yeah, design your life first and then figure out the work that fits with that.
I love that. Sorry, I was just hitting the unmute because we've got people starting to deliver things outside the house.
Oh, great.
The beauty of house renovations. This is why we had to move it last week, wasn't it? Because people were starting to drill tile, stone in the backyard. But no, I love that. Design your life first. Have that sort of visualization, and really explore what you want your life to be and how you want it to feel.
Exactly.
Who's in
how
it?
you want it to feel, exactly.
Yeah.
And then figure out, what work fits with that and doesn't kind of take away from that, because there's so many jobs that you could take that might have a really nice paycheck, but they just are going to take everything from you and you've got nothing left to live life with.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm going to leave it there, Lyndall, because I think that's a great way to finish. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. How do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is where I hang out. So contact me, send me a connection request, send me a message. I get a lot of messages. So, if I don't immediately reply, just be a little bit patient, but, or message me again and go, hey. And then they can go and have a look at what I'm doing on beyondabreak.com. And if they want to know more about sabbaticals for themselves, obviously get in touch. But if they want to know about sabbaticals for their company, then put me in touch with your HR people. If you really want to move this forward with your company, then the best person for me to speak to is your HR team lead, director, whoever. So
awesome. Thank you, Lyndall. And again, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm going to stop our recording there.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.